After many storms and sorrows, Odysseus and his men found at last a place of rest, the enchanted island of Circe. Her house was a harbor between dangers, soft beds, warm food, and no sound of war. For a time, the men almost forgot what it meant to be afraid. But heroes do not stay in safe harbors for long. One night, Circe spoke the words that turned comfort into dread. "If you truly wish to see Ithaca again," she said, "you must sail where no living man wishes to go. You must travel to the land of the dead and ask the spirit of the prophet Tyresius how to find your way home." She told him how to do it. Sail to the edge of the world, where the sun is weak and the sea is dark. There, on a cold, lonely shore, he must dig a trench in the earth, pour offerings for the dead, and sacrifice black sheep, calling the shades to drink so Tiresias would appear. Odysseus listened in silence. He had faced monsters and storms, but this was different. This was a journey into death itself. Still, for the sake of Ithaca, for Penelope and Telemachus, he agreed. At dawn, the crew made ready to sail. Among them was a young warrior named Elenor, tired, clumsy, but loyal. He had slept on Circe's roof, too exhausted to come down. When he woke to the shouts of departure, he stumbled to his feet, stepped into empty air, and fell. Elenor broke his neck on the hard ground below. In the rush and fear of leaving for the land of the dead, no one saw where he lay. The ship pulled away from Circe's island, with one more companion missing, unburied and unremembered. They sailed far from the lands of men. The sea grew darker. The sky turned dim and colorless, as if the world itself were growing tired of light. At last they reached a low, rocky shore beneath a sky that never fully brightened. Here, at the edge of the earth, Odysseus stepped onto the cold ground and did as Circe had taught him. He drew his sword and dug a narrow trench in the black soil. Into it, he poured milk mixed with honey, dark red wine, and clear water, then scattered pale barley over all. Finally, he sacrificed the black sheep, letting their blood flow into the trench. The air grew colder. Mist began to rise from the earth. Odysseus called into the darkness, to the spirits of the dead, to the shades of those who had gone before, and to Tiresias, the blind prophet who knew the road home. At first, there was only silence. Then shadows gathered on the edge of the light. Thin figures, pale faces, eyes like empty moons. The dead had come. They pressed closer, drawn to the smell of blood and offerings, whispering in voices like distant wind. Odysseus lifted his sword and held them back from the trench. Circe had warned him, no soul must drink until Tiresias appeared. Among the crowd of shadows, one shape stumbled forward, a young man in broken armor, his head hanging at an odd angle. Odysseus stared in horror. Elenor! It was the comrade who had fallen from Circe's roof. "Lord Odysseus," Eleanor's shade begged, "you left me unburied, alone in the dust. Do not let me wander in shame. Go back to Aiaia, burn my body with my armor, and raise a small mound of stones so that men may say, 'Here lies Elenor, who followed Odysseus to the ends of the earth.'" Grief cut through Odysseus. "I swear it," he said. "I will return to Circe's island and give you the burial you deserve." Eleanor's shade drew back, lighter than before, and faded into the gray. More spirits gathered. Among them was one form Odysseus knew at once, his mother, Anticlea. Her face was thinner than he remembered. Her hands reached toward him, but still he held his sword over the trench. "Mother," he whispered, "I cannot let you drink before Tyresius. Wait for me a little longer." Her eyes filled with sorrow, but she stepped back into the shadows. At last another figure came, tall, cloaked, staff in hand, his eyes dark and empty, yet knowing. This was Tyresius. He bent to the trench, drank of the blood, and straightened, filled with sudden strength. "Odysseus, man of many wiles," he said, "you have left the world of the living to seek the way home. Hear the truth. The god who hunts you is Poseidon. You blinded his son, the Cyclops, and his anger follows you across every wave. Still, there is a path to Ithaca, if you are wise enough to walk it. You will face the song of the sirens. You will pass between Scylla and Charybdis, and you will come to the island of Helios, where the sacred cattle of the sun graze. If you and your men leave those cattle unharmed, you may yet reach home, though after great suffering. But if they touch them, if they kill what is forbidden, your ship will be destroyed, your companions will die, and you alone will drift back to Ithaca, broken and in a stranger's vessel, to find new troubles in your own hall." Odysseus felt those words sink into his heart like stone. "Is there peace for me in the end?" he asked quietly. Tiresias nodded. "When you have cleansed your house and restored your kingdom, you must carry an oar inland until men mistake it for a farming tool. There you will offer sacrifice to Poseidon, and only then will his anger fade. In your old age, far from storm and sword, you will die gently, and your people will be at peace." The prophecy was heavy, but it was not empty. There was still a road home. When Tiresias stepped back, Odysseus at last let his mother drink. Her eyes brightened, and for a moment she seemed almost alive again. She told him that Penelope still waited, fighting off men who wished to steal his throne. Telemachus had grown tall, caught between boy and man, trying to defend his father's house. His father Laertes lived in grief and rags, mourning a son he thought lost forever. Odysseus tried 3 times to hold his mother, but his arms passed through her like smoke. "Do not weep for me," she whispered. "Live, endure, come home." The dead pressed closer, more and more faces, more voices, until the living man among them felt he might forget the warmth of the sun. At last, Odysseus could bear no more. He turned from the trench and ran back to the ship. His men, pale and shaken, pushed the vessel off the black shore and rowed hard away from the land of the dead. The gray coast vanished into mist. The voices of the shades faded into memory. True to his promise, Odysseus returned to Circe's island to bury Elenor properly, raising a small mound of stones so that one lost comrade would not wander forever in shame. Only then did he set his course for the next trial, toward the voices of the sirens, the jaws of Scylla, the whirlpool of Charybdis, and the deadly island of the sun. He had walked among the dead and seen what fate awaited him. His hope was wounded, his heart heavy, but his will was unbroken. For Penelope, for Telemachus, for Ithaca, Odysseus sailed on.